I'd ask that you remain standing. Thank you. We'll all sleep. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's with great sadness that we open this meeting tonight. Over this past weekend, we were notified that the son of Donald and Joanne Boland passed away unexpectedly at the age of 37. Information regarding the services is still incomplete. So at this time, I'd like to take a moment to extend our deepest condolences to the Boland family, and if you'd all join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, if you do the roll.
Councilor Lambert.
Present.
Councilor Roderick.
Present.
Councilor Durfee.
Here.
Councilor Ruda.
Present.
Councilor Leonard.
Present.
Councilor Costa.
Here.
Minutes will reflect Councilor Boland is absent.
Thank you. Councilor Costa, would you be so kind to read the consent agenda tonight, please?
Yes, ma'am. Our consent agenda tonight is approval of the minutes from the October 14, 2008 regular council meeting, a receipt of minutes from the following boards and commissions: School Committee 2, Library Board of Trustees, Historical Cemeteries, the correspondence received and filed, received from Attorney Jerry Imes regarding commendable work by Officer Daniel Raymond, and finally approval of tax assessor abatements.
Thank you.
I make a motion that the consent agenda be accepted.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I would like to pull back on the letter from Attorney Imes.
You're requesting that we take the removal?
Yes,
Okay.
remove A3A.
3A will be removed. Is there a motion to accept the remaining items of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Raise your right hand.
Raise your right hand, sorry. Any opposed? Please raise your right hand. Okay. Okay, Councilor Leonard. Item 3A.
I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge that for those that don't have a copy of the agenda, and I won't read this entire letter, but it's a letter from a local attorney, a gentleman that practices in Portsmouth, concerning the incident where Corporal Daniel Raymond performed in an exemplary manner. And I think I wanted to point this out, particularly because most of us take the performance of the duty of our police and fire people pretty well for granted. And apparently the attorney that wrote this letter thought it was a very exceptional situation, and I just wanted to take a moment of everybody's time to recognize the patrolman. And I thank the attorney for bringing it to our attention, and I thank Corporal Raymond for his performance.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept item 3A?
I would so move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public hearing advertised. TLT LLC Harbor Ridge subdivision requesting parking ban to be imposed on south side of Hayden Avenue from the utility pole number 3 to Main Road, subject to meeting all legal requirements. The request by Attorney Leary to be continued to the February 23rd, 2009 council meeting. Is there a motion to continue?
I will so move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. And opposed? None. Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Board of Licensing Commissioners, non-advertised. Item number 1 is Charles R. Mulcahy of 65 Beach Avenue, request approval of private detective license, subject to all meeting all legal requirements.
I move the license be granted.
I would second that.
Any discussion?
Yes. And I would like to just raise something. Charles Mulcahy is presently a detective in the police department itself. And when I saw this, and Chief, I would be glad to direct my questions to you, but where somebody is an active police officer, who will have information of a confidential nature, is there something that raises a flag?
Massachusetts prohibits an active police officer from obtaining a private detective's license, but Rhode Island does not.
You know, they may not, and there may not be a law against it. But I personally have some concerns. Because either way, if you receive information with regard to your private work that may have some criminality to it, or criminal aspects to it. And I think there must be a policy in Massachusetts, and for good reason.
It's actually a state law.
It is state law, okay. The fact that we don't doesn't obviate it, for me anyway. I think I have some concerns with it, not for a person who is not an active police officer. Active police officer, detective within our department. But you could see some impropriety, not so much in fact, but the appearance of it. I don't think it's a good policy. I'd be glad to hear from the solicitor on this. I mean, I know it's a matter of first impression, and I haven't raised it, but I would have some concerns.
Sergeant Mulcahy has indicated to me that he will be retiring soon. If we want to stipulate it upon his retirement, if that would satisfy...
that would make me certainly, would ease my concerns.
Understand.
Amend the motion.
But we did have a motion.
If you wish to amend it, feel free.
I'll make a
No, we didn't make a motion.
okay, well, I'll make a motion that if it's granted, it be granted only upon his retirement as an active police officer from the town of Tiverton.
Yes. He has met all the qualifications otherwise. No, there are no, nothing that would prohibit him from having other than the fact that there's a concern.
And the license that should not issue until that condition occurs.
I'll convey that.
And I would second that motion.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those against? Seeing none. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Robert W. Ramus, 654 Penn Street, Fall River, requesting approval of private detective license, subject to meeting all legal requirements. Is there a motion?
Also move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Chief, did you have any comment?
There was nothing would stop that. It's just a renewal, sir.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Any opposed? Seeing none? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the Board of Licensing Commissioners. It's advertised. It's Adrian Turcott, Tiverton Auto Parts Incorporated, 541 Bulgamash Road. Request approval for auto junkyard and second-hand dealer license at 533 Bulgamash and Block 116, Card 29, Bulgamash Road. Is this a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone here wishing to be heard on this matter? Sir, if you'd come up to the podium, please. If you could state your name and address, please.
Lawrence Driffy, 2423 Main Road, Tiverton.
Okay. Your concern?
Well, I was supposed to be here tonight, that's all I know.
Oh, okay.
You're the landowner of this property, is that correct?
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I think that was just the question. Do you know if Mr. Turcotte is here or not?
Don't I know of yet, I guess.
There's no requirement that he be here unless they have questions that need to be answered.
Well, I have a question. For example, your request for an auto parts, for an auto junkyard, doesn't that license already exist at that location?
Yeah, it was turned in.
If I may,
Yes.
Madam President, there were actually multiple properties there. There were 2 separate licenses that were involved. I did investigate this with the clerk and with Gareth Eames, and there were different properties. The particular property which is before the board tonight, which is part of it, the license was held with this gentleman as the landowner and the previous person as the tenant, and they had actually applied jointly. And then the tenant left to go provide this at another location. So technically, that's why this is being considered a new license. I had the question as to how this affected if this was an abandonment of the legal non-conforming use. But it's my opinion and Mr. Eames' opinion that it is not, because, first of all, the previous license was issued in both names, the landlord and the tenant. The tenant said, please take my name off the license, as opposed to the landlord did not give it up. Also, non-conforming uses, there's a presumption in the law if the activity hasn't taken place for a year, there's a presumption that there's an intent to abandon it, but that can be rebutted. It actually hasn't even been a year, because it was at the end of January 2008 that they took their name off the license, and it was early in January of 2009 that this new one came in. So it hasn't been a year even that there hasn't been an active license for the place. So consequently, I don't think there's been an abandonment of the non-conforming use, but given the fact that it's a new licensee, it's considered a new one for the purpose of having a public hearing. Yes, there has been a junkyard there in the past, but this is technically a new operator, so it's a new public hearing.
So if I follow correctly, Mr. Sanford is the one that is withdrawing.
Yes,
Right.
he asked that his name be taken off. And then this new one, Mr. Turcotte, has asked to be here, and then that's why Mr. Durfee is here, because we need
owns the actual
we need the
property.
landowner to consent as well, yes.
Now, Mr. Turcotte presently is operating Tiverton Auto Parts. Is that the way I'm reading this?
I don't know whether he's already operating from the site or not.
Here's my question. Well, at least the map that we received shows Mr. Turcotte. Durfee is sort of between them. And what I was wondering is this an expansion of Turcotte's non-conforming use?
It may be an expansion of his use per se, but on a legal zoning thing, I don't consider it to be an expansion, because it's a use that the use is the same. Even though different people were running it, the use is the same for the land. It runs with the land, not with the person. And if it hasn't been abandoned, then the use would be still legally valid there. As to who is actually doing what, I don't know. That would be the purpose of having a public hearing and being able to inquire.
Mr. Turcotte's not here. No.
I know I would feel better if Mr. Turcotte was here, if I could ask him some questions.
Me too.
How'd you make that? I
think he is.
This is Mr. Turcotte.
Are you Mr. Turcotte?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. Okay.
You're the man of the hour.
Mr. Turcotte,
Yeah.
is it the same locations that Tiverton Auto Parts already was? There's no expansion of the area itself?
No.
It's the exact same locations, everything?
Yeah.
There's just a change of ownership?
Well, Sanford was running it before.
Right, and you've taken over?
I'm taking over, yeah. No expansion. I'm just using it for storage.
Okay.
Could I ask you, we have this map attached to our agenda,
Yeah.
and could you just come up and, I had a question with regard to Tiverton Auto Parts now is right here. Your building. Here's,
Yeah.
here is Bulgamarsh.
Yeah.
Here is Fish,
Yes. I got salvage there and there.
and there.
And Sanford used to be in between here.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay, and,
He also was back here.
right.
Sanford.
So what portion
I'm just using this portion here.
of this portion?
Yeah.
Okay. And your existing license covers, is that accurate?
No, that's just a buffer, the land I bought before.
So this has no
That's just wood.
sign, okay.
Mr. Turcotte?
Yeah.
So 28A, the small frontage portion on the front, is that also part of?
No. The only thing I'm using is this, and I'm putting a license in for over here where Sanford had, right here.
Would you, for the
Yeah,
rest
can
of
we
our
show us,
information, what
please?
lots are we talking about?
Yeah, here,
That would be,
you want to take that,
the
it's,
last time
this is the Sanford, okay, that you're seeking,
I'm on 30 and 28.
and this is 29, and you're using this. Now, is it clear the license runs, here, why don't you take that over to Mr. Costa here?
I have this and this.
Now,
Now,
Right.
and Sanford had this in between
Yeah.
on 29.
so this and this, you have a license for.
This is not, I don't have a license for this. That's just a land I acquired
I'm gonna ask him.
as a
No,
buffer
you
zone.
ask him.
Nobody can build it.
I'm confused.
This is
Which
the lot,
this is swampland.
this is the lot on which you currently have a building.
No building on this. The building is up here.
Can you just name the lot numbers when you're saying up here and there
Okay.
in the buffer? Lot
Lot 28,
29.
there's no building.
Okay,
Lot 30 there's buildings on it.
okay. And lot
Lot
29A is a buffer, is that what you referred to
No.
as a buffer?
29A I referred to as a buffer zone.
And lot 29 is the subject of tonight's
Yeah, lot
license,
29 is
which was
subject
run by
of,
someone else previously.
right, Sanford.
Okay, lot 28 is 330, 541 Bulgamarsh Road.
Lot 30 is 541.
This doesn't have an address, a number.
Mr. Turcotte, could you please explain then, if you were only going to use the Sanford lot in which you delineated this line here on 29, is it?
The rest is wooded.
This is all wooded area?
Yes.
And this is also wooded area?
That's wooded area, yes.
Okay.
What, can you just, Madam Vice President, can you just explain
Yes.
what this and this was for the
Yes,
record?
yes, I just wanted to make it clear for myself first. Okay, lot 29 with this delineation is where the Sanford had their business.
And the delineation is a line that runs approximately between the rear line of 30 and the rear line of 28. If you connected those two lots,
Right.
that's where, and the area where the business will be conducted is between that line and the street, Bulgamarsh Road.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's where Sanford had their prior business.
Right.
Okay. And then to the left of, to the right of Lot 28, Mr. Turcott claims that this is all woodlands. That is Lot 29A.
Yep.
And then the now what is this lot here? What is?
This is
all 30?
This is all part of Durfee's.
Okay.
Mr. Durfee's property.
And that's
29.
This is 29. And the remaining area of 29
Is wooded.
below that delineated line from the back of those two lots of 29 and 30 is it a wooded area? Is what he.
The land did not have a line going from the rear of lot 28 to
I guess
the rear of
Dirk will
lot
answer some
30.
questions.
None of us did.
That's
We
what-
we're drawing
Yeah,
it
we're
now
just
based
taking
on the
Sanford.
testimony.
Sanford used to also have this lot
They
here.
one big
Yeah,
chunk here.
and-
Gate Broadway,
And that's not,
I'm not occupying that.
okay.
That's not for the record.
So basically, you have, if the council grants this, two separate licenses for contiguous properties.
Yeah.
And that still wouldn't be classified as an expansion of use.
No, I mean, if they had come in a year ago when Sanford was leaving, they could have done a transfer of the license without even having to have had the hearing issue. And as I said, it's my, from looking at the license, that it was issued in both names and only the tenant asked to be removed from it. The license wasn't turned in, and it's been under a year since there was any expiration of the license and or even that action of the tenant turning in and the reapplication. I don't believe that would be classified as an abandonment for zoning purposes. It would be limited to whatever area of the lot that they'd had previously. So whatever you do, if Sanford was only doing it to that line that we talked about, the line that would run between 30 and 28, then they would still only have that right to use it up to that line. And I would recommend that you make it a condition of your license as well, that it be granted for the area of lot 29, but only as far south as a line running from the, and I'll speak slowly so Nancy can get it, from the southeast corner of lot 30 to the southwest corner of lot 28. And then only northerly of that line would this license apply.
Okay.
I just have, just to clarify this. So presently, Mr. Turcott, you do have a license for lot 30 and lot 28?
Yeah.
And now, what about 28A? I know I asked you, what is on 28A? That's the small strip in front of 29A.
Nothing.
Just wooded lane?
Okay, I'll make a motion.
To incorporate Mr. Teitz's
Yes.
delineation.
Yes, I will make a motion that the license be granted for an area or that portion of the so-called Durfee property, which would, the area would be bounded north by Bulgamarsh Road, westerly by land of Turcott, southerly by a line drawn from the south boundary or the southwest corner of lot 30,
Southeast.
Southeast.
corner of lot 30, on a line which is to the south westerly corner of lot 28, also owned by Mr. Turcott.
I'll second that motion.
And then as long as you're creating a whole legal description and then bounding easterly by said lot 28.
Yes. That would complete the square.
Can we have a second? Second? Okay, I'm sorry. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed? None? Motion is granted. Next item on the agenda.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
That's all right. We'll consider it closed.
The next item on the agenda is appointments and resignations. And we have 2 interviews scheduled. The first one is for the Harbor Master, requested by Philip LaPointe at 136 Cypress Avenue. Is Mr. LaPointe here? Would you kindly take a seat at the table, please? Thank you. Anybody have any- Yep, he uses a microphone. Does anyone have any questions of Mr. LaPointe?
Yes, I'm going to play Mickey the Dunce here for a second. If you could just tell me exactly what does a harbor master do? I think a lot of people would like to know that.
Well, for the most part now, I do administration because we do harbor patrols. I'm in charge of the mooring field management and making sure that the fees we collect are brought forward to the town. We also do enforcement of the town codes as far as speed limits and safety violations. Mostly I maintain a higher level of safety awareness than strictly law enforcement as far as speed limits go. So if I see someone speeding, I will pull them over and then I'll do an intensive safety inspection, check that they have a life jackets, fire extinguishers, that they've met all the state codes and standards and Federal Boating Safety Act, things of that nature. So mostly safety oriented and mooring field management. That's my main one. I do most of the administration.
Mr. LaPointe, one of the, a constituent has written a letter to the council saying that she had tried to reach you by phone several times. And that is, the town clerk oftentimes gets called, they cannot reach you. Now, how is that phone operated and when is it operated?
It's there's an answer machine there, and I try to get back the week they call, because I'll take the calls, and then on weekends I generally return the calls. Sometimes they do get lost, but I try to return the calls within a week.
Within a week?
Within a week.
What happens when there's an emergency on the...
I have a pager from the dispatcher, and if there's an emergency, then the pager goes off, and then if it's a boat that they need someone to drive the boat, I've also trained several of the firefighters to operate the boat, because I have a full-time job, and if I'm not available, I'm not available. So the fire department has use of the boat in case there's a safety of life issues, and the boat's maintained. The chief and the people who are going to operate the boat are taken out by myself and my assistant, Captain Ratcliffe, who's a fireman, and we make sure that they're safe in operating the boat.
If someone has an issue with the mooring, I mean, they would have to wait a week before it would be resolved?
Well, I return the call within a week. I try to return the calls within a week, yeah. No, and I don't know what you mean by has an issue with the mooring.
Let's say somebody couldn't get into their mooring, the buoy was gone, or...
Well, that would be a different, yeah, that would be a different,
somebody else had pulled into their mooring.
We don't see a whole lot of people, taking someone else's mooring. Probably they wanted to get on the waiting list and something along those lines, and just, trying to get on the waiting list or get information on a mooring. I get a lot of calls from realtors when there's an exchange of properties, what the restrictions or the limitations or the regulations for the moorings are in the town.
Mr. LaPointe, did you ever respond to this person?
I don't know who, I haven't seen the letter.
Because she obviously wrote you a letter personally.
Who was it?
It was a letter sent to you personally.
Okay, it might be in the box. I checked my box about 2 weeks ago, and I haven't. Has it been in the box since then?
I don't know.
Then I
It's
didn't
dated-
receive it. I
It's
didn't.
dated November.
22nd.
No, I didn't receive that letter then.
Is there any other questions of Mr. LaPointe from the council? No? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next interview is for the Juvenile Hearing Board, requested by Renee Brown,
Madam President, I would like to recuse myself at this time.
Esquire of 325 State Avenue.
Hi.
Good evening, Ms. Brown.
Good evening.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Brown for tonight?
I will ask my normal questions. Why are you interested in serving on the juvenile board, and what do you bring to such an appointment?
Good question, and I think I answered some of that in my letter with my application. I'm an attorney practicing in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. However, I haven't had a case in Rhode Island in a number of years. My office is in Mass, and I do a lot of criminal defense work in Mass. For a while, a few years back, I had an opportunity to work with juveniles in Massachusetts. And I can tell you, most of the time, the problem with juveniles committing offenses, boredom, lack of some kind of parental supervision or adequate adult supervision, poor decision making. It appears for the most part that kids that commit these crimes are actually just making bad decisions that end up getting them charged criminally. And I don't see an overabundance of evil, bad kids in Tiverton, but I think we have our share of kids that are making bad decisions and getting criminal offenses. What happens a lot of times is these kids don't realize when they break these laws that it has consequences across the rest of their lives, be it drug offenses, alcohol, driving-related offenses, and the such. And I think as a member of the hearing board, the reason I put my application in is, I have extensive experience with those kind of kids. Do I think I'd be pro-defense? I think I'd be pro-wanting to get to the root of the issue as versus maybe pro-punishment. I know you didn't ask me that for my political views, but I am about wanting to help the kids in Tiverton that we seem to not have an adequate answer for. We don't have enough, activities and recreations in place to address the needs of all our kids. And I think they come from all walks of life in Tiverton. Just like our population, our kids that are committing these offenses are not just from low-income families in the north end of Tiverton. They come from some affluent, good tax-paying citizens from the south end of Tiverton. And I think that the same thing across the board. It's real bad decision-making. And I think I bring to the table in the other side, the insight to that. I've had an opportunity for kids to be real candid with me about why they do what they do. Kids are not candid with adults. But they're candid with their lawyers when they're in trouble, and they got to tell us what they did and why they did it. And I think that's part of what I can bring to the table as a hearing board volunteer.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
Have you read the ordinance?
I did. I happen to have a copy of it right here in front of me. I had a couple questions about it.
Well, it's a new ordinance for us, so ask your questions.
Well, I was reading it, and one of my concerns was, in order for a juvenile to be referred to the board, they had to admit in writing to the offense. And again, some offenses have lifelong ramifications. Drug offenses, namely, will preclude a juvenile from receiving any federal financial aid. They won't even be considered. One of the first questions on your financial aid application, have you been arrested and convicted for a drug offense? And so out of the question mark, what do we do about those? What about the 3 16-year-olds driving down Crandall Road smoking one joint? Do they all have to admit in writing that they were in possession of pot, distributing it amongst each other and smoking it to be referred to our board? If they've never been in trouble before, and if it was just, again, a bad decision by them. That was one of my issues. I don't know about that whole admitting to the offense in writing part of that. My other concern was the ability to revoke the driving privileges. I think we have some pretty strict OUI statutes in the state that cover that anyways. I don't see the hearing board being able to supersede that, but I do see it as a concern. I'd be real concerned if, my daughter who just turned 16 decides to drink 2 Budweisers next Friday night and take out my car and get stopped. But I don't know. I don't know the parameters of the hearing board being able to actually revoke that license. And I know it was a new ordinance, so those were my questions.
Probably some answers to those, whether it would be part of their record. I mean, a juvenile board is not a district court hearing, so forth. But if you make the board, then you are free to make suggestions with regard to changes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is resignations. We have a resignation of Jay Edwards from the Landfill Subcommittee.
I'll make a motion that we don't accept that resignation.
Is there a second? I don't think you'll be pleased.
No second to that, right?
No, there is no second.
I'd like to put a motion forth that we accept the resignation of Jay Edwards from the Landfill Subcommittee with deep regret.
Thank you.
Thank him for all his service.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I would second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
I think we should send him something from the landfill in honor of his service.
Exactly.
I see no opposition to that. The second resignation is of Stuart B. Hardy from the Conservation Commission. Is there a motion to accept that resignation?
I would make such a motion to accept his resignation with thanks for his many years of service on the Conservation Commission. I would only add one little comment in there. I think he's retired, so I'm not quite sure why he doesn't have time to do all of it, but be that as it may. That won't be part of the motion.
Second.
I think Cecil, he teaches. Now, maybe that is retirement, but I'm not certain. You would be...
Some would say so.
I believe he's on the planning board now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's his main reason.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Seeing none, those resignations are accepted. The next item on the agenda are the appointments. We have the Recreation Commission with one unexpired term to expire June 30th, 2011. We have 2 volunteers for that commission. We have Joshua A. Mello and Chris Romelin. Do we have any nominations for the Recreation Commission on that one expired term of June 30th?
I would like to nominate Mr. Mello, Josh Mello.
Okay. Is that a form of motion?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second for Josh Mello?
I'll second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of Josh Mello? Any opposed? Seeing none. Josh Mello has been appointed to the Recreation Commission for the expired term until June 30th, 2011. The next appointment would be for the Harbor Master for the annual appointment to June 30th, 2009. We have Mr. Philip LaPointe and Mr. David E. Vanier.
Madam President, I would like to move this to our next meeting so we could have time, since we only met with Mr. LaPointe this evening, to give us a chance to...
Is that a motion?
review it. That's a motion. That would be...
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this particular appointment to our next meeting.
I might also suggest that if the Harbor Commission would like to make a recommendation, we might just ask them. If they do not wish to, then that's fine, but I'd like to, at least he works with the Harbor Commission, and
So, Lieutenant, amend that motion to
Well, it would be, just use the time
to request that?
yes, and ask the town clerk to do that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to continue this particular appointment to our next meeting. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Those opposed, seeing none, we'll continue this appointment to our next meeting. The next item on the agenda is the appointment to the Tiverton Housing Authority with one term to expire on June 30th, 2013. We have two candidates, Ms. Elaine Nearpass and Mr. Michael Burke. Are there any nominations for this appointment?
I'd like to nominate Elaine Nearpass.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay. Any other nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Michael Burke.
I'll second that motion. So all those in favor of the motion for Elaine Nearpass, would you please raise your right hand? 2, 3, 4. In favor of Ms. Nearpass?
That passes.
2 against. Yes, so that'll pass. Ms. Nearpass has been appointed to the Housing Authority for one term to expire June 30th, 2013. The next item is, I'm sorry.
I'd also like to make the comment, since this is my first experience with this, I hope everyone recognizes the difficulty of trying to make these choices. In all honesty, everybody's been qualified. And when we're looking for diversity in some of these boards and committees, you certainly have a diverse group that's applied. I would hope, for example, someone like Michael Burke, who obviously has a tremendous experience, would consider looking for another board or another committee where he could put his expertise at work. But I just wanted to stress, at least from my viewpoint as a newcomer, I'm not voting that anybody's not qualified. The problem is, it's all qualified people. And in all honesty, some of these choices, I'm sure, especially with the Juvenile Hearing Board, are going to be very arbitrary on my part. Please don't take it personally.
Well, you're absolutely right, Mr. Lambert. I appreciate that comment, because it is very difficult. We have a great cadre here of very qualified applicants, and it's been a very difficult decision to try to pick those. So the next item, I'm sorry.
And that's going to become very clear when we on the next Juvenile Hearing Board, because we had some excellent
Madam
candidates.
President, I need to recuse myself.
Okay, Mr. Costa. Okay, we have 5 terms expiring. 1 in 2009, 2 in 2010, and 2 in 2011. However, I do have a question. According to the ordinance, were we not to appoint 2 alternates? Yes, and I was questioning that those alternates, would they come in with a 3-year term, as it states in the ordinance?
It's not clear. Well, what we could do, Madam Chairperson,
Yep.
is perhaps go through it and hold the alternates while the town solicitor gathers some thoughts.
So I guess what we should do is take the first term expiring in 2009 and just go through that order.
I think you should start with the longest term.
The longest term?
Generally, the
Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll go with the longest term. That'll be 2 candidates for the term to expire in 2011. Do we have any nominations for that particular term?
I would like to nominate Cynthia Costa and Renee Brown.
2011, Renee Brown, 2000.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay.
Excuse me. I think you need to nominate one at a time, so you can vote on one of, yeah.
Okay, well, I nominate Cynthia Costa.
Cynthia Costa for the first term expiring 2011.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of Miss Cynthia Costa for that first expired term for 2011, please raise your right hand. I guess there'll be no opposed. So Cynthia Costa has the term till 2011. The second 2011 term, do we have
I would like to nominate Renee Brown.
Renee Brown for the second term, 2011?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lambert. All those in favor, raise your right hand. There's no opposed. Renee Brown has the second term for till 2011.
I would like to nominate Sina Franklin for one term expiring 2010.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of Sina Franklin? Raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Sina Franklin for the term of 2010.
You know, as I've thought about this, because I think it has been hard, my nominations are people who are just currently working with young people. And on that basis, I'd like to nominate Mary Lou Prue.
Mary Lou Prue for the second term till 2010.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Mary Lou Prue is appointed for the second term of 2010. The one term to expire in 2009.
This is tough, but I think Adam Cox, since he is working in the entire field, would bring some insight too.
Okay.
Be an interesting match for Renee Brown.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Adam Cox for the term expiring 2009. All in favor? That's unanimous. Mr. Cox has the term to expire in 2009. Now, what do we have for the alternates?
One more.
I believe that the alternates would serve 3-year terms.
3-year terms, okay, and we have to choose two.
It states that terms are 3 years. It doesn't say anything otherwise for the alternates. They don't serve unless there is someone absent and called upon to serve.
Right.
But I would think it would be a 3-year term as an alternate.
Okay. So,
I'd like to nominate Richard Bush as an alternate.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Roderick, Mr. Lambert. Do we, okay. All those in favor of Richard Bush as the first alternate, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Richard Bush is the first alternate. And the second alternate?
Again, this is very difficult. These people who are willing to give their time, all should be commended. But I would like to nominate Robert Vermette as an alternate.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion and a second to nominate Robert Vermette as the second alternate. All those in favor? Who's opposed? Okay, so Mr. Vermette is the second alternate. And the Juvenile Hearing Board has since been appointed. Yay. The next item of unfinished business is Councilor Lambert, reduction of compensation for town council members, the memo from the town administrator. Town solicitor, I'm sorry.
I've reviewed the memo, and while it's my view even after reviewing the memo that it would be possible, I think the sense of the last meeting was, and one I'll go along with, and that is it really should be a personal gesture. And I simply accept the sense of the last meeting and move on. There's no motion.
Okay.
I think that is the right thing to do. So I appreciate your taking comments and taking them under review.
Advisement, that's right. Okay. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda. Oh boy, I just lost my agenda.
Where did I put it?
Oh my goodness,
Here, you want to borrow
I
mine?
lost it.
It somehow gets,
It's mixed up here. The second item on the unfinished business is Council Leonard update on establishing major council goals. Mr. Leonard.
This is, Madam Vice President, this is just a reminder that I know that a lot of our attention is focused on financial matters, and they are truly pressing and they're truly difficult. But there are other things that the town needs to keep track of, and I think it's important that we come together to form a list of the top 3 or 4 items. I don't think we necessarily need to do that tonight, but I would like to keep the process going in that everybody submit their list of 3 or 4 items to Madam Clerk, and then we go through a voting process and a discussion process. Now, I could also, perhaps, since I know that I've submitted my list, I could make a motion that we just adopt my list, but I won't be so foolish for 2 reasons. The most important reason is that I wouldn't dare to suppose that I have that sort of knowledge and breadth. So I would just, at this point, not take a lot of time tonight, but encourage everybody to get your list of the top 3 or 4 items to Madam Clerk so we can move forward. It's always amazing to me, you know, you're elected for a 24-month term, and when you realize that you've just committed 2 nights, actually what it turns out to be not 2 nights a month, but typically more like 6 nights a month or 7 nights a month for 2 years, that sounds like, oh my goodness, that's going to last forever. But I would simply note that we only have 22 months left, and it just is an eye blink since we started. So those months go by in a big hurry. So I would urge everybody to get their list in, and we'll move forward at due speed.
Okay, so duly noted.
you know, Nancy, it might be helpful to people to pass out last year's goals. And
Would that be your list of goals?
That's a good start.
we'll try the year before.
And then we would have 2 lists, and then Louise and I could get together and we'll have our
Yeah,
goals.
it's mindful of that. It's just that the list is not sort of, we all support mother and apple pie. It's what can we accomplish
Right.
in the next year?
Yep.
And so, and it's hard because we don't, there's a lot of things that can be done, and there's a lot of money that we need. So it's not a time that we can really grapple with some of the things that the town should be considering.
Okay,
Thank you.
all set. Right, the next order of business is financial business. The town treasurer, Mr. DiMatteo, with a presentation by Paul Dancero, Parmalee Poria and Associates, LLC, review of town financial audit report for June 30th, 2008. The audit has previously been distributed.
Madam Chairman, thank you for giving us the opportunity to report on really what happened after the May 2007 town meeting. What this is really is a somewhat of a report card, if we could look at it, and what happened thereafter. And we're going to show today that we're going to highlight some of the activities that we're engaged in. Let me flash on the screen here.
Can I ask, though, can all the council members see that screen?
No. I wonder if you could move the screen, not to the detriment of the audience, but sort of put it here.
And Steve, can you help?
Maybe move it back a bit.
We're gonna have to move the whole projector then,
Oh,
they have to be.
close.
So you want the
screen
back
Yeah, maybe,
Yeah, what do you think?
Let's start with that.
back up a little.
Up there.
It's not.
You have to bring that machine.
Can everybody see that?
you.
Okay. We're trying this, by the way. This isn't our intention to be transparent using transparencies. But what we have here really is a scenario on a timetable on this annual report. Basically, the audit, as you know, the end of the year closed on the 30th of 2008. Now, right after that, our auditors came in, and Paul Dancero is with me tonight. He is a partner at Connolly Pryor and Associate Certified Public Accountants. They came in on the audit started on July 21st. So this audit has been somewhat in the making over a long period of time. The actual report itself is approximately 106 pages. And they have various forms of financial statements on various fund activities that we have within the town. The audit was concluded on December 22nd. And by law, Rhode Island law, make that clearer for you, Rhode Island Law 4510-5, the Rhode Island Auditor General, Mr. Almonte, Ernest Almonte, requires that we present our financial statements, and all municipalities present financial statements no later than the 31st, or else they have to go before and ask for an extension. And on a personal basis, you have to go before Mr. Almonte and define why you did not meet the 31st. We met the deadline this year. This is the first time, I believe, Mr. Dancero, in 3 years that we have met and complied with Public Law 4510-5. Now, during the management of that town meeting budget, basically consisted a lot of personalities, some of which are no longer here. Mr. Glenn Stegman was here on July 1st, and his tenure ran through July 1st to February 22nd, 2008. Then Mr. Gonzalo came on February 28, 2008 to the end of the year. Mr. Amarantes was town treasurer from July 1st to November 13th, 2007. And Mr. Gonzalo came on in November 14th through the full year of June. Mr. Gonzalo, as you know, had occupied 2 positions at that time. And this is the town council as it was on that May Day when this budget was approved. Now, my goal is very easy tonight. I'm just going to highlight a few items for you. Mr. Dancero is going to get into the heart and the meat of it. But basically, what I'm going to show you are the fact that the net assets of the town decreased by $93,000. And if we look at the second highlighted item, we look at the government, the operating expenses were $43 million, or a 6% increase from the prior year, while revenues collected were $43,758,463, a 7% increase. This increase was mainly due to an increase in property tax base, our investment earnings in the fiscal year. My last comment is basically an unfortunate comment, but it was a necessary comment, I guess, and that's the last comment, and that refers to the unreserved fund balance. I'm not going to dwell too long on that, but I want to basically say that our unreserved fund balance right now is $429,258, which represents a 1.2% total general fund over the general fund expenditures. By our charter, we are required to be at a 3%. I'm not going to dwell too long on that, but our charter stipulates, I believe it's section 301, that we should be at a 3%. So, Mr. Dancero, it's all yours.
Okay, well, before we begin, I'd like to, I know this isn't the Oscars or anything, but I'd like to thank a couple people that helped put this all together. First, I'd like to thank the Town Council and the citizens of Tiverton for allowing us to be of service to you all. I'd like to thank Mr. Jim Gonzalo, the town administrator, for helping us through the audit. Also, Mr. Diamata and the town treasurer for also helping us through the audit, and Mr. Doug Fiore over at the school department. Once again, they collect all their data and put their data together so we can audit their books also, because they run a separate system over there. So without them and their staff, we wouldn't be able to get this audit done in time as required by the Auditor General. So I'd like to thank them all. I guess I'm going to show have a couple overheads that we're going to present tonight. This first slide is, let me get my report here. This first slide is the town statement of net assets. Now, the statement of net assets, this is page 13 on your reports. The statement of net assets presents the town's complete assets regarding your buildings, your roads, any receivables that you have, your cash, all types of assets that the town owns. And also it presents all the town's liabilities. It's a full balance sheet of the assets and liabilities of the town. It shows your long-term debt, your bonds, your notes. It also shows any compensated accrued absences that town employees may have. These are also required to be put on as long-term debt. So this presentation shows all the assets of the town, also your business type assets through your land acquisition fund and the school cafeteria fund. Those are your business type activities. This presentation has been around for about 4 years now for the town, when the Government Accounting Standards Board said you had to take all your assets, identify them, all your liabilities, and put them on a balance sheet, and change the format of the presentation. This is more like a corporate balance sheet. It shows your assets and liabilities, and that's what they really wanted to see, because that helps when you go out to bond. A lot of the bonding agencies had to do this and put it in this format to really get a good representation of the assets and liabilities of the town. And before I move to the next slide, are there any questions on this slide so we don't have to go back? Yeah.
You want to highlight any?
Okay. Thank you. Now, the next slide here is basically the income statement, because we had the balance sheet that we're showing with all your assets and liabilities, and now this presentation is really the, I'll even use a little wand here. Okay. This just shows all the expenditures of the town, and any the program revenues, it says here, are any charges for services like public safety. They issue tickets, they issue fines, things like that, so they support themselves in a small amount, but they still add to the revenue that the town generates. And also the town clerk's office, they issue marriage licenses, dog licenses, things like that, so they also generate revenues that are not part of the property tax base. So GASB said they wanted you to show those types of revenues and how much they offset the cost of the various departments that the town has. And over here you'll see these are negative numbers basically because these departments can't support themselves fully. they rely on property taxes also to support themselves. So this whole presentation really shows how the departments have generated revenues and how much they rely on property taxes, state grants, and other miscellaneous interest that the town earns on their investments. And it all comes down to what we talked about, your net assets. What is the final number of the town's assets? And that goes to the balance sheet that we saw in the previous picture. Now this is the new way that's been out for about 4 years now. Next slides I'll show you other more traditional types where it shows your fund balance, and mainly that's what you're more concerned about. And the way the next presentation is shown is more on a cash basis. Do I have funds to run and operate the town? And that's what I'll show you on the next slide. Okay, on this slide here, this is your traditional way you've had it for years and years. It shows the general fund, the school, Cassett renovation, which is the renovation of the Cassett school. And over here it says other non-major governmental funds. These are all a combining group of all your special revenue funds. You get federal grants, monies that come in for Homeland Security, educational grants. All those are classified as non-major funds, so we group them all together in this column. But these are your major funds because these are the funds that either meet the requirements of GASB to identify them as a major fund, or the town says we would like to see them on the front page here. But it shows your cash, all your assets, your investments, any accounts payable, also deferred revenue. Deferred revenue would be revenue that has not been collected, because the only time in a governmental fund, the only time you recognize revenue is when you collect the money. It's not the levy. The levy is in the full accrual presentation that I showed you earlier. But this shows you monies that are not collected yet. And as Mr. Diamante said in the earlier presentation, your fund, and this all comes down to your fund balance. And your fund balance is 429,000. I can't see it that well from here. 429.
Yes, 258.
258. This is your unreserved fund balance. This is what's left over in a cumulative presentation after all the years of revenue and expenditures. This is what's left, basically, of your assets. If you sold everything, liquidated, this is what you would have left at the end. But not including your buildings or anything like that, because they're not on this presentation. So obviously, if you sold all your buildings, and those buildings that we saw on there, all those assets, they're at historical cost. They're not at appraised value, appraised market value. So obviously, the numbers in there are not presented in what you could actually get for them today if you decide to liquidate the town, which obviously isn't going to happen. But so the $429,000 represents a lower number than your charter request. As he said, your charter says you should have at least 3% of your operating budget in this number here. But as the financial institutions say, if you go out to bond looking for money, you did go out to bond recently for the renovation of the schools and all those types of buildings. And when you go out to bond, this is what the bonding agencies will look at. How financially stable is the town? And based on that, they will decide what the market will decide really, what rate you will pay when you go out to bond. Whether it be 4%, 5% for your bonds, and that's based on the financial strength, just because there's a risk out there, and markets look at risk. And if you are a higher risk, you will pay a higher rate for financing, just like in our own lives. So this is taken to a higher scale. So the markets look at saying a town like this should have about 8 to 10% within their fund balance, rather than just the 3% that your charter says. So at this time, the town should really look at maybe trying to, over the long term, move this number up to a more manageable number that the financial institutions would favor when you go out to bond. Towns like Narragansett, they had an overall plan about 8 years ago because their fund balance was down around 3%. And over the years, you could see they did a natural progression. They moved it up to 8%. And within one of their documents, it showed that each year how it went up. So if I could suggest anything, I would say it's try to make a concerted effort to move this number up, because this number doesn't give you much room. If the town ever had a deficit for the year, you could end up with a negative number very easily in this area, because it doesn't take much to spend an extra $500,000. A change in health care, obviously change in contracts, things like that. There isn't a lot of room in this area right now.
What page was that?
That was on page 15. And that was the balance sheet that I just showed you on the fund statements. This is more like the income statement, showing what happened during the year. The revenues you took in on the general fund, the expenditures that you made, any transfers between funds. What happens here is the general fund transfers money to the school. So these are presented in this area here. Transfer out from the general fund, transfer into the school. Transfer out from the general fund, transfer into a capital project for projects that are being performed by the town. And then it gives you your bottom line. It shows you that the town had get my book.
Here, Paul.
This is page 16.
Paul.
Oh, okay, thank you. The town had a deficit this year of $1,727,000 during the operations for the year ended 6/30/08. Now, the town had projected during the budgeting process for this period to have a deficit because you wanted to use fund balance. You wanted to eat up some of your fund balance. You projected of having a deficit of $918,000. So it did go over that. Okay, that's better. And then for the school ended up, after all its revenues and expenditures, the school ended up with a surplus of $550,000 for the year, which gave them an ending fund balance of $535,000 at this time. And then there are other various funds like the Picasset renovation. Now that's a fund that bonding money came in, and once you spend the money, that fund will basically go away because now the project has been completed, the funds have been used up, and the schools have been built. So these types of funds are temporary funds that you use to take in bonding money, finish the project, and then close the funds. But obviously your general fund, the school funds are continuous funds that will have budgets every year and continue to be used. And then all these other non-major funds, these are same things. You get a Homeland Security grant in for $50,000. You spend the money, the fund gets closed, and then you move on to the next year. And you'll get most of these grants you'll get every year, especially educational ones. You'll get Title I, Title II grants that will fund and help supplement the school's activities. And those are the slides that I have. But I'd also like to say, we also do a compliance audit for the federal government that's required every year. And we look at federal spending. How did you spend that Homeland Security grant that you got? Did you spend it properly? Did you spend it under the compliance rules of the federal government. And we issue a report on that also, which is at the end of this book. And if we find any issues with that, we would have to comment on them and refer that to the agencies that oversee them. But we did not find any issues like that during the year, so glad to say we didn't have any problems there. I don't know if you'd like to take questions now, if anyone would like to ask any questions.
I have some questions, Paul.
Okay. Like to go back over here, or?
Yeah. The, one of the things that you say is the current fiscal year's expenditures and transfer exceeded revenues and transfers by $1,727,000. You just pointed that out.
Yeah.
On a budgetary basis, revenues exceeded expenditures and transfer by $826,422. How about explaining those two concepts?
Okay. On a budgetary
basis, revenues exceeded expenditures and transfers by $826,422. That's on page 3.
On page 3. Okay.
It's the bullet number 4.
Mm-hmm. And that goes with, on a budgetary basis, what happens there is when you created your budget, you said you were going to use fund balance for your to balance your budget. Okay.
And you're talking about the 900,000?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 826,422 on a budgetary basis, revenues exceeded expenditures and transfers. Now, if we had not taken that 900,000 out, okay, because we had left over 826,422 basically. We could have taken 76,000 out, 74,000.
What would the
on a budgetary basis,
yeah.
revenues exceeded expenditures and transfer by 826,422.
Well, the budgetary presentation is on really page 56. The whole.
I have that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But I guess my question is, the concept between sentence number 2 and sentence number 3. The current fiscal year's expenditures and transfer exceeded revenues and transfers by $727,895. Just explain simply the two concepts.
Well, in looking upon that, on a budgetary basis, revenues exceeded expenditures and transfers by $826,000, but let me take a look at that here. That should be reversed. On a budgetary basis, expenditures exceeded revenues and transfers by $826,000.
So that's why I couldn't reconcile.
That's why you couldn't reconcile. That expenditure should be in front and the revenue should be in back.
Now, let me just look at 56, because that's where I started. So, my dear man, that shakes your confidence in your numbers when you said they should be.
Well, not the numbers. Not the numbers.
No. Excessive, the bottom line on page 56 is the 826,422. Okay.
And it shows a reconciliation on
page what?
Page 65.
Page 65. Hold on. Page 65. Hold
on. Page 65.
Okay, just.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That actually shows how we get from your budgetary presentation to your gap, they call it, generally accepted accounting principles. That's how you, so there was a loss of $826,000. When you have encumbrances that you set up, and when you have a change in encumbrances from a budgetary to a gap presentation, that's the change of 17,000. The 918,000 that you're using for fund balance is not a revenue source. It's just a recommendation that you do to say we want to eat up some of our fund balance. So that's taken out also, and that's how you get to your $1,727,000.
Okay. The transfers. Now let me just go back to page 56. Before we go back to 56, can you go back to page 63?
Yes.
And this is, okay, transfer to other funds. You have transfer to industrial park, transfer to library, transfer to landfill. Okay. And transfer to school appropriation. Okay. The transfer to industrial park, that's the last payment, as I recall, on the industrial park bond. Why is that a transfer?
Because
That's just, well, here's my confusion. That was one of many debt service payments the town makes.
Yeah.
Why is that singled out as a transfer?
Because you created the industrial park fund, and out of that fund, the debt is paid. So from my understanding, the money has to, or the not actual monies, but the actual revenue source for that debt payment has to be transferred over to that fund. And because all your transfers have to, when they come to the bottom line, they have to zero out. So if the one fund shows a transfer in, we have to show a transfer out to that fund.
So if I may, if I understand what you're saying, is back when the industrial bonds, or the bonds for the industrial park were first floated, there was an account established. And basically, if I do follow you, is that the money from the general fund flows into the, I'll call it the industrial park ledger entry, and then that pays the bond.
Yes, that's what I understand.
That goes all way back. That was a process. That's a question. Does it indeed go all the way back to when it was first set up to?
From my understanding, it does. Ever since we've been here. We've been here for 3 years now.
And I have no idea why it was done that way 20 years ago. But
yeah, there's sometimes they want to isolate it and make it easy to identify. So sometimes they'll set up a special revenue fund, they call it, for that.
I guess.
I don't know. That in a way was, it's a GO bond. It was a GO bond. And, you know, it was no revenue bond. It was a GO bond. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to take the time on that, but
well, hold on one moment. On the, let me check something here. And I'd have to look at that more just to see, but that might not even be the full piece. I don't know if, is that the full payment for that debt? Because sometimes you fund it, like you'll do a partial funding. You'll say, okay, the general fund will cover a certain percentage of that debt.
That was the full payment.
That was a full payment?
That was the
final payment on the industrial park.
Okay.
Yeah, that was.
So why that would be deemed a transfer, I don't have any.
Well, if it goes to another
I
fund.
understand what you're saying. I just don't know why the.
Yeah, well, that's the way it was set up. That's all I can say.
But I may have interrupted you.
No, that's okay. I'm just ready for more questions if you have any other questions.
Yes. One of the issues and this is on page 94. I want you to think I read all this damn thing.
Get this, you did.
The net pension obligation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, outstanding as of June 30th, 2008. And the net pension obligation under accrued expenses,
Mm-hmm.
how is that computed?
The town's actuaries will develop, I'm not an actuary, but the town, they develop a long-term look at the liabilities that the town has regarding pension benefits for its retirees.
I understand that.
Yeah. So what they'll do is, they'll use life expectancy calculations, they'll use different types of calculations that will say, at this time, you should make a contribution to your plan of X amount of dollars.
Yes, but 191 is well below what the actuaries tell us.
Well, this isn't the contribution. This is what they'll say is, they'll say you should make a $500,000 contribution to the plan. If the town makes its annual required contribution, the obligation will be relatively minimal. If the town decides to hold off on making those payments, the obligation goes higher and higher, and they charge you interest, just on the books basically, for that undeposited contribution. There's an outstanding debt there, and they'll charge interest on that. And that all goes into the calculation of the net pension obligation. And the net pension obligation is a liability that is recognized for a future payment, a future liability. And that is required to be put on your books, but not on your fund financial statements like we talked about. It's supposed to be on your
Okay.
net
So
assets.
you get that figure from the actuaries?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to ask
So, on that same line, is the 55,021 interest then?
No, that's the change that's the increase during the year. Because if you look at page, we actually have the calculation presented in the notes, which is required. And if you look on page 52 of the notes,
Talk about the pension benefits. We were in phase 2 this June.
Oh,
We
the
have to do that
OPEB,
calculation.
the OPEB, yeah. Yeah, on page 52, you'll see on the top, you'll see this is the calculation that actually comes from the actuarial reports that submitted to us. And on that first line, it says your annual required contribution, that's what you were talking about, was $597,000. I had mentioned the interest that they charge you on the outstanding liability. That was $13,000.
Yep.
And then they make some type of adjustment, which I'm not aware of $11,297. And that gives you your annual pension cost. You made and that's $599,000.
Right. It's not that figure that I was puzzling over. It's this net pension obligation as how
Yeah, and
that
that's
is-
what it gets to at the bottom of it, the
Yes.
191.
Right. I mean, is how that gets calculated, what is the process and how that number.
Well, what you see in front here is what they do. They actually sit there and they calculate what you should contribute, what did you contribute, and you had an increase of $2,000 for the year in your net pension obligation. So the town is in very good position regarding their pension.
No, yeah.
$191,000 is obviously not a large number when it comes to pensions as it relates to the rest of the state. I have other communities that I work in, and they have $22 million as a net pension obligation. So this is one of the lowest in the state.
Now, is this pension for well, we have two pension plans. One is the separate police pension, and then the other is we cover everybody else via the state pension plan.
Yeah, this is only for the police pension plan.
Only for the police. Okay.
Yeah, the other pension, the MERS, which is the municipal, and the school has the ERS, which is the employees plan. Now that, they tell you how much you should contribute every year, and you do that on a monthly basis based on your payroll. So you make those contributions every year. You can't fall into a net pension obligation with the state. They won't allow you. They'll just say you have to make your payment every month. So, and that's what the town does. So that type of plan has its own calculation as what the contributions should be based on the state plan. So like I said before, the town is in very good shape regarding its pension plan, which is a real plus for Tiverton, because many towns are burdened with overwhelming pension debt, where they're asking them to make an annual required contribution of $4 or $5 million a year. Excuse me, when you're only making a contribution of $590,000 a year. So that's not a huge strain on your budget every year.
So does that mean, since we're doing well, we can contribute less than 500 and some odd thousand?
Well, I mean, that's what the state's actually talking about. Mr. Kacheri went over that last week or two, that he would, they're looking into that, especially someone in your position, because you have such a favorable liability that if you win a couple of years without making your contribution, your liability wouldn't go up that much. Not saying to do it, but I'm just saying it's a possibility, because you're not so far behind like some communities that owe $22 million. They can't afford not to make a contribution. It'd be very difficult for them because they're in a tough situation already.
I guess I'm having a little bit of trouble, because I remember seeing other reports that says our police pension fund is underfunded by significant amounts of money. But now that's a total
for the last
calculation, whereas this is more, if I can use terms loosely, is more of a cash flow, really loosely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, your let's see if I have it here. Because your net pension obligation, even the year before, was only $136,000. Mm. So it's been pretty steady for quite a few years now. It was in 2006. It was 138,000. So you've been making your required contributions. That's why it's been staying low.
The landfill, I'm now looking at page 94. Mm-hmm. Landfill closure, schedule of long-term liabilities. As of June 30th, 9 months ago or so, $4,651,000.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And those numbers are based on a study that was done, I'm not sure how many years ago.
No,
on the closure of the...
Right, it's who knows what it is today.
Yeah, and it actually could go down. If new technologies come out that could make the costs go down. I think that's kind of happening now. I've seen some of them where the costs may even go down because of changes in technology. Mm. But that study was done quite a few years ago, from what I understand.
Now, you have additions, 135, 470. Is that accurate? We usually appropriate so much into the general fund. That's not really my question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a restricted account. Why is it, and that is done by the financial town meeting. And I'm not suggesting this be done, but if the financial town meeting released those funds to the general fund and saying, okay, Clean Water Action now has low-cost bond issues that they will lend communities to redo.
Mm-hmm.
Our reserve or unrestricted reserve would zoom.
Well, let me think about that for a minute. If this landfill closure,
I'm not suggesting, I don't want
Yeah.
anybody to go get nervous about that, but
Mhm.
I just want to ask the accountants.
let me take a look at that for a moment here. Hold on one moment. If I'm looking at this correctly, on page 87, you have your landfill closure fund.
I was looking at, I was also looking at page 94.
Mm-hmm, yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
But as you can see in here, you have investments of $2.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a due from general fund of $944,000. Now, those are monies that have actually been put away for this closure of the landfill at some point in the future, which is a very good thing because you've put away monies for that expense rather than having to realize it at one point in the future.
That's 2014, we're required on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the date 2014 goes back to that original study of the, I don't know when. So, in fact, that may or may not be correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody really knows, again,
Yeah.
going back to the technology and the fill rate and the laws.
The more you look at this, the more I don't. Those are the investments due from other funds. The landfill closure fund, 944.
Mm-hmm.
We appropriate 163 every year.
Mm-hmm.
That goes into the fund. Why is that then due from other funds? Explain that to me.
Because you appropriate it and you transfer the revenue that you recognize for that each year. But if you don't actually make a cash transfer, if you don't actually write a check and say, I'm putting that money in that investment account, it's now you owe me this money. So that's what happens in this case. And that's what happens with a lot of funds. The money is spent, but unless the actual funds are transferred over there, it creates a due from or a due to.
Now, is part of that just a timing issue in that this is as of June 30th?
Well, that number 944 is a cumulative number that's been going on, I guess, for quite a few years because that's been the number's been going up and up. And one reason that you do that, well, you actually have money in this fund, but one reason a lot of communities create these due to, due froms because they don't want to have 25 checking accounts or savings accounts all over the place. So they keep all the money in one account that they can invest maybe at a higher rate because they have a larger number they can invest. And they say, okay, I owe this fund $100,000 out of this pool of money that I have. So it's kind of holding the funds for that fund. It's holding the money for that fund. And at some point, the money can be transferred over there.
All right, so the money has been allocated and has actually been put in, say, checking account A, and to this point, it has not been transferred to the landfill fund.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's more like been put in a CD. and
Yes, right.
and transferred.
Yeah. I mean, they're all...
Make us nervous.
Several
Yeah.
CDs. Several CDs.
Yeah, you put it in short-term, money markets, things like that.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding the audit? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Matea. Thank you, Mr. Dansereau.
Okay, I'd like to also say thank you very much. This is the third year of our audit, and our contract is over, and I'd really like to tell you we appreciate working here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is with you.
If I may ask real quickly, will the audit be available online?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
All right, the next item under financial business is the town administrator requesting release of 0708 carry-forward funds of $3,306.35 from litigation account number 105-359 to litigation 0809, account number 105359.
I so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor? Raise your right hand. No opposed, that's unanimous. Second item from the town administrators, request council approval to forward draft of fiscal year 2010 budget report to the budget committee.
I'll make a motion to do so.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Durfee?
Well, as I looked at the
Oh, did
budget...
somebody second? Yes, Mr. Roderick.
Yes, Mr. Roderick. Okay. You know, I have a suggestion to make on this. The Budget Committee has received the first draft that everybody is not happy with, including the town administrator. And rather than us approving, they already have it. You passed it out. I was watching the TV, and you handed it to him.
Yes, you saw that.
I did. Before we send the next draft up, you know, why wouldn't we agree to sit down in a meeting? And I don't know when that is, whether it's a Saturday morning, and go through it from top to bottom so that everybody is looked at, this, that, and the other thing. Not take, they had the first cut. Obviously, it's going to be substantially changed.
I would think so.
Yes. So I almost think that rather than say, well, the council approved that, and then they beat us over the head with it and say, oh, you send it to us and beat up on us, rather than do that, is to agree now on a date where we can all sit down and go through that budget top to bottom. And then send them, mindful of the fact that even that will be worked on. But at least we'll have a more comfortable draft.
That's what we've done in the past. We've been able to sit down and look at everything and at least ask the administrator the reasoning behind some of the numbers that he's put forward. And then probably give him direction as to where we need to cut even further. So I think that that's a wise suggestion.
So from a procedural standpoint, we'll vote this down, then Ms. Durfee will propose what she just proposed, and we'll adopt that. And we will basically have given the Budget Committee a unapproved draft.
That's right, as we told them that it would be.
Yeah, it was clearly labeled. So we should, if we agree with...
Is that agreeable with you, Jim, too?
Yep.
Yes, it is. As a matter of fact, we are currently making copies of all of the backup for the council. So as soon as we can get that completed, that'll be even more detail that you can look at, that we can go through.
And we could have the department heads at this meeting.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So do we want to go forward and
well, we could vote. I like Cecil's idea to vote it down.
Okay.
Okay, before we do, I just have some more discussion on it.
Sure.
I believe, isn't there a requirement that this council get a budget to the budget committee by a certain date?
Yes.
And have we already exceeded that date?
Yes. No, they haven't.
Yeah.
They do have it. So we haven't withdrawn it. I mean, so, you know, it's...
They could certainly work with what they have.
Right. Yeah, but I believe the wording is an approved budget.
Yeah. But is it approved, really?
No.
It's a recommendation. It's a...
Still a working budget.
Yeah, it's very much of a... I mean, it's...
No, I just want everybody to be cognizant that we do
You're
have
right.
a requirement to...
You are right.
To get it to the budget committee.
Yeah. So there's a motion on the floor.
Is there a second?
I
Mr. Roderick?
second.
Okay.
So we've got to vote this one down.
Right. So all those in favor of voting this particular item request for delivering the budget as it stands to the Budget Committee, please raise your right hand. Okay. All opposed?
Let me influence that, Mr. Ivy.
Not really.
It's unanimous.
Well, I would like to make a motion that, now I'm mindful of Donald's schedule, but I'd like to make a motion to have the council sit just on the budget on a date that we all can agree on.
Well, we'll wait till the material is ready.
Yeah, when would that be, James?
I would hope that it would be ready this week. We're currently making the copies. But we're making copies not only for the council, but for the Budget Committee, and so we're making some 21 copies roughly. And it takes a little bit of time, but we're working on it every day. So I will try to get it to you for your Thursday packets, if possible.
Thursday packets, well,
Well, right.
You get, don't they get a packet every week?
No. No.
what about setting a night like next Wednesday night?
That would be February 5th.
Mm-hmm. Convene at 7, just sit here and do the arduous thing, going through.
Line by line.
Yep.
Is it the zoning board?
I like that day.
No, you don't
Oh,
like
no,
that
no,
date.
no, no,
Nancy's
no,
on
no.
vacation.
No, she's not now.
Fiona. Well, what about the following Saturday morning?
That would be the 7th? February 7th? Is that doable with everybody? Yep.
Annabelle?
Yep.
We'll try to make it.
Oh, no, you have to be here. We draft you.
It's a Saturday. 10 a.m.
If you bring the coffee, 10 a.m.
Works for me.
Usually the town clock brings the coffee.
Well, I
Then
mean,
Leona will bring the,
I mean, you can make arrangements prior to leaving on vacation.
We'll bring the coffee. So that will be February 7th at
10 o'clock?
10 o'clock.
And I would request if the town clerk would send out an email just so everybody can double check their schedules to
Okay.
make sure that February 7th is okay for everyone.
So do we have a motion to that effect? Any motion?
I think Ms. Durfee made that, I'll second it.
Second, okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you, Cecil. Mine was an incomplete motion because I didn't have a date, so you supplemented that.
It's unanimous. February 7th, 10 o'clock. And I would assume that would be here at the town hall, Ms. Town Clerk? Yes, okay.
Get that posted and then.
10.
You'll be notifying your department heads.
Okay, for the next item on the agenda under new business, it's John P. Canane, Dennis Talbot, Able Heart Commons Incorporated, 271 Stoller Hollow Road. Petition for town council to accept Able Heart Lane and South Commons Road, compromising new neighborhood known as Old Crandall Commons. And we have an attachment of the Tiverton Planning Board memo dated January 8th, 2009. Good evening, gentlemen. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions?
No, we have a recommendation from the planning board.
Okay,
Yeah, it looks pretty straightforward.
okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion that pursuant to the recommendation of the planning board that we accept Old Crandall Common Streets, that being Able Heart Lane and South Commons Road. Right. Andy, do we have to be more specific than that?
As, if you just say as requested, would take care of the specificity.
Okay. As requested.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. No opposed, that's unanimous. Thank you. Second item under new business is co-chairpersons Ms. Barbara Pelletier and Robert Martin of Placing Pause, discussion, potential cost and cost-effective and care-effective animal control program. We had something passed out prior to the meeting.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Robert Martin. I'm from 313 Neck Road, and Barbara Pelletier.
104 Bonnie Field.
And we are both co-chairs with Placing Paws, which is a 501c3 private nonprofit animal advocacy group in town. We come before the council tonight to express our concern about the potential budget cuts that could be coming down the line as the town may be facing deficits, and how they may affect animal control in Tiverton. The town's animal control contract will be renewed in the very near future. I believe it starts again on July 1st and expires June 30th. In this dire budgetary climate, we are afraid that the town may be forced to reduce costs, and these costs, we feel, will drastically affect animal care in town to save the town money. Placing Paws would like to offer help in defraying some of these costs associated with animal care in Tiverton by proposing a partnership with the animal control officer in town. And the whole idea behind that would be to help provide some help with the medical expenses for Tiverton's sheltered animals, to provide some temporary fostering in private homes for hard-to-place cats and dogs. And this would, by doing that, open the cage count at the shelter, which would allow other stray animals in need to have a place. The last item would be to network with other area shelters, informing them of Tiverton's animals, which are currently up for adoption, and we feel that this would speed up the adoption process. But like I said, our main concern is with the new contract coming up. We're concerned about, as the budget process goes through, we feel that there could be a chance that the town could start chopping in that section of the budget. And thank you for listening, and we hope you consider our request.
Well, as you know, I've been here before. Some of you know. I think this idea of fostering would be great, because it could potentially reduce the number that the town has to pay for at the whatever after it goes out to bid, the shelter for the accepting of our animals would be. I have looked into the costs that the other communities around here pay, which is in a lot of instances considerably less. I don't know if any of you have done any background checks before you decide to go out to bid, but I will be happy to give you the information that you might want. For instance, Barrington spends about 1/10 of what we spend. Somerset, which is a much bigger community, spends around $50,000. It doesn't include cats, but by state mandate, if you notice on what I have given you, the state has a cat title law that requires communities to address the feral cat, spay, neuter, and cats and fine people. It also requires the towns to put aside any fine money, and half of it would go to assist people that can't afford it. And hence,
I believe that came into being in 2007.
About 3 years ago.
Signed by the General Assembly,
right.
I believe.
And it is a state law, and we just can't ignore it. You know, so that thing eventually will come back to bite us. Another thing which actually concerns me is the statement of our animal control to his chief on the what is the cat policy, and Paws Watch, which puts an inordinate amount of money into this community, which is another nonprofit busy in Rhode Island. And if you look at some of the statistics, and unfortunately the lady, Michelle Barcelo, couldn't make it tonight. They have probably fixed, spayed and neutered, in excess of 200 cats in Tiverton alone. More than half of what is found is not a feral cat. It's a cat that was abandoned, that was dumped. It's trying to exist in the outside. It needs very, very little of boosts of medical care, etc., but it is an adoptable animal, and according to our policy, it probably would be put down. And that is one of their chief concerns. So one of our ideas was the fostering is that there are people out there, if we work in conjunction with animal control on an amiable basis, there's absolutely no point in being not cooperative, that perhaps we can find a broader
this would
home
help.
base.
This fostering would help at the shelter. It would open up more cage space. At the present time, I believe there are 8 cages at the shelter, 6 for dogs and 2 for cats, and that's it.
And if you look at the back, we've placing Paws, which is only a few people, we've been able to raise about $7,500 for the animal care, which we wish we could raise more and do more, but we try.
It's very difficult, and especially at this time now. We're noticing funds are starting to drop off. So I think everyone is noticing that. Do you have anything else?
Well, perhaps we could refer this to the town administrator for consideration and need.
Well, what happens, I believe, because we had talked to Glenn Steckman maybe a year or two ago, I believe it was, on the other contract, and the proposals have to go out at a certain time to meet that July 1st deadline. And, you know, what you need is you need to have that time to get the proposals out there. It's just a matter of doing it.
And we do need the cooperation of the officials that be, that spay and neutering might be enforced. And as we all see the statistics of how cats can multiply and so forth and so on. And there is another statistic out that one of the reasons we're having more coyotes and now the Fisher cats are coming back is because these feral animals then will produce enough to support a colony of or whatever coyotes and things like that, and then you spread rabies and you get into the whole health issue, and it is, and I would be very remiss in saying, because we found it placing Paws because of the overabundance of animals at the town shelter. Somehow or other, and as I was going through my things for tonight, I came across one dog, Sonny, who was in the shelter from October of 2007 through July 2008. Now that shouldn't happen, and he, for the most part, was the only animal in town. I think somebody could have taken a more aggressive way of trying to place him, even if it is to foster him out. Maybe give that person who may have...
What happened to him?
I would like to know. I wish somebody would tell me. It's trying to get a report from animal control with a definite, not blacked out thing is impossible. And even to get the blacked out reports is like 3 trips with cupcakes to the police station and so forth and so on, and begging on my knees, which actually, as a taxpayer, we shouldn't have to do. It should be online, which brings me to another thing. And I'm sorry I'm sounding off, but I spend a lot of time on this, I raise money, etc. And I wish we could get our value for what we give. I mean, the town. I just wish we would get our money's worth. That's all. And at this point, you know what I feel? Even if you cut it back, we're not going to have any difference. It's not going to be any different. And it's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating. And I'm sorry, I promised all my friends I wouldn't say this. Right, Rob?
Well, just to sum it up.
Yes.
I'll
be quiet.
What Barbara is saying is that...
But I'm a great resource for information.
What she is saying is that as a small group in town, we feel that with the amount of money that we raise each year, we could help defray some of the costs that the town faces. Hopefully, the budget won't be cut as much as we feel it's going to happen, but with networking, fostering, and helping with medical expenses, we'd like to help the town. That's why we came before you tonight, and I hope that you consider the request.
Sure. Thank you, Mrs. Pelletier. Thank you, Mr. Martin.
No, and as I said, I have statistics.
I make one suggestion?
Excuse me?
Your organization is called Placing Poor's Mission?
No. Placing Poor's mission statement.
Okay.
That never got read, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask you for an address. I mean, somebody may be listening and may be willing to make a donation.
Well, what we've used is Barbara's address at 104 Bonniefield Drive in Tiverton.
Okay, that's good enough.
There also is a post office box, but I don't know that tonight to give it to you, so I would have to get back to you.
Good work.
No, it is, and you know if you multiply the 200...
You're talking to dog lovers.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody on this council has some kind of an animal, so...
No, we started out as being for the dogs, but they're actually in the state
I know the cats, I'm sorry.
Yes, actually in the state...
Actually, what happened, when this group formed, I believe at times there were 12 animals up at the vet, 12 dogs.
Yeah.
And now the population goes between 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the situation up there is kind of tough in relation to
fostering
cats.
is, yeah.
And this group, Paws Watch, which we help with our money, they have really handled the feral cat situation in town.
Just do the numbers.
You wouldn't believe what happens in Little Compton. There's a girl down there, I swear she works 24 hours a day just
Lori
catching
Mello.
cats down there.
I mean, we should have her as an animal control officer. She's absolutely fantastic. You know, and if you multiply 200 cats by a minimum of $50 investment, even at a reduced spay-neutering, that's a considerable sum of money that's put into the town.
Thank you.
Okay,
and we will assist with dogs, too. That was our primary mission.
Okay.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay,
I'm not quite sure what we're going to do.
We're
going to refer it to the town administrator, and he'll work with, looking for the new contract anyway for, it's that time. The next item of business is town administrator, request permission to advertise for the tax collector position.
Yes, I received a resignation from the tax collector that she will be resigning as of March the 20th. So I'd like to start the process to replace her. It's a very important position. You know, with the millions of dollars that we collect in taxes every year, we need someone that can give their full time to that activity and manage that office.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the town administrator's request to advertise for this position?
I'll so move.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, the motion's been motioned and seconded. All in favor? Raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item is Town Administrator review of list being submitted to the Rhode Island Division Administration for Economic Stimulus Package.
I believe you've been handed this evening a summary of the items. I have the detail that would support each and every item that you see listed. Yeah, I'm looking for my copy of the list. And I don't know that all of these items should be submitted for the economic stimulus project for the state, but these are all the requests that I have received. There are a few that we have not been able to complete because we really only had, including today, 12 days to gather all this information. The letter was dated January 14th, and here we are trying to make these submissions. But I think we've done a pretty good job in backing a lot of these items up. If you would care to delete any items from the list, you're welcome to.
I did have just one question. Under fires, you have fire station. Does that represent both Main Road and Crandall Road, or are you talking about just one of the buildings?
That was just one of the buildings.
Well, it's a wish list.
Which one?
I believe it's
possible to expand that to both buildings?
main one at in North Tiverton.
I was just going to suggest maybe we could expand it to both buildings.
I'm sorry.
You're talking about renovation and expansion, with the emphasis on renovation of the fire station. I was just suggesting maybe put an S at the end of station and we can run it. I mean, it's a wish list, Jim.
It certainly is. Essentially what it is I believe it's the addition of a second story.
Jim?
Yeah, I don't spend a lot of time on it. I thought maybe the S had been dropped or something, by accident.
No,
but if you've already made the decision, that's fine with me.
You know, it is a wish list, right?
Yeah.
As you said, but is that really what is responsive to the wastewater management gave us what their proposals were, and they had, a design, when the design would be done, and were like 4 different things. And that seemed to me to be sort of responsive. I think they'll just take some of this and throw it in the waste basket.
Well, some of them, Miss Jiffy, I put in some of these.
Oh, did you?
Only because I was told that these were original 1930 WPA projects. And if they were willing to, the idea of the repair of the seawalls and so on, I'm told that the WPA did that in the 1930s. They may want to revisit it here in the next century. That's why I have things like the renovating the old stone bridge, repairing it, repairing the Nanaquacket Bridge. It was just my understanding that these were original WPA projects.
Okay. It's just when they talk about plan design status, permit status, start date, estimated jobs, estimated permanent jobs, I go, yeah, we don't have that we don't have that information. And I mean, maybe if they come back and say, well, get it for us,
Well, Jim, if I'm not mistaken, did you say you had backup for all of these?
Yes.
So I assume that when you put this proposal to whomever it's going to, then it would have all the backup for each one of these suggested.
If they choose to have it, these have to be submitted tomorrow, and before they're submitted, I will contact them and ask them if they need all the backup with it, or if they just want the list.
do we have design status for some of this stuff? James?
I'm sorry? NC is not complete.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Well, the information is here for...
Oh, this was passed out tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, goody.
Yeah.
The,
There's a new list. Hopefully you're not looking at the list that's in your packet.
Right. Now, these are the economic stimulus packages that were supposed to be like shovel-ready. Is that what these particular things are
Yes,
supposed
but
to
obviously in 12 days, we couldn't get everything shovel-ready.
Shovel-ready.
But I don't think that they're ready to award
But I thought the
this yet
wastewater
anyway.
management, I thought that that's what they had come
Yeah,
to tell us, that they were,
they
that
were
they
shovel
were ready.
because
Yeah.
those are projects they've had in abeyance for
Right.
the last few years.
Right, with the design standards complete.
which the head of our
Complete, yeah.
DPW department
With drainage.
cautioned us that he didn't think they were quite as shovel-ready as
Well,
it appeared.
well, they have the
Design
designs,
status.
they do. It's marked complete.
Yeah. But they're quite old designs. Many years ago, and the standards may or may not have changed. One, I think Councilor Durfee is on target. Some of these are pretty ghost-like. We're going to spend $2.2 million theoretically for the fire station renovation, and we're going to establish, am I reading that right, 200 jobs? Estimating 200 jobs to spend 2.2 million. In today's construction cost.
Let me double check that. That sounds excessive.
Yeah, there may be an extra zero dropped in there, maybe 20 jobs.
If you're only going to spend 275 jobs on the construction of a new library at $13 million,
Yeah.
seems a little.
Yeah, I think
heavy-handed.
maybe it may be a typo where there's an extra zero may have been added. That one just sort of jumps out.
Okay, well, this was going to be a great review.
Well,
The backup
okay.
does indicate 200, but I believe that it's probably more like 20.
Yeah, that would be great. With the extending of sewers is the same size and it only has 20.
So you'll be all set to meet that tomorrow? Send this out, Jim, for tomorrow?
I'm sorry?
This is all set to go, ready to go for tomorrow?
If whatever you approve or disapprove, I'll just amend the list.
We were asking it to review.
Well, if there are some projects on there you don't think are worthwhile, then we can certainly remove them.
Well, without the backup, it's kind of hard to
You're going to
determine
give
what
them
to do.
something to disapprove, let them disapprove those.
Well, it
Grant
could-
the rest.
you know, I don't know what to do with this list, but I'm a little skeptical that we have the permit status for some of these things. With CRMC within 200 feet, DEM approval to extend the sewer. I gotta tell you, I don't think we're there, but if we want to send this list up, I mean, I don't know what to take off. It's just, if they want a hurried list, they're getting a hurried list.
Madam Vice Chairman, I suggest you take off anything that's on state highway, because the state is putting their whole list together, so...
It'd be a duplication.
Yeah, it'd be a duplicate. They won't even look at it. So anything that, you know, the Nanaquacket Bridge is state highway, the seawall state highway. So anything that has to do with anything that we don't own, I would suggest you take that off the list as a start.
I don't have any problem with them if you think they'll be on another list.
Repair, replace the Nanaquacket Bridge.
Does somebody live near there?
Yeah. And if you ever look down at some of those potholes and you can see the water below, it's not hard to understand why it's on the list.
Does the state really own the Nanaquacket Bridge?
Yes, they do.
Yes, they do.
And they don't keep it under repair.
Think of it as an adjunct to the Secundit River Bridge it's still struggling with. Well,
Okay, well,
I guess you need a motion.
I would make
Yeah.
a motion that we approve the list with the exception that any duplication of state state-owned property be removed.
Ooh, that's going to break Mr. Lambert's heart, because if the Nanquacket Bridge, State Road, repair, replace.
There's also the stone bridge in there, Ms. Durfee.
Yeah.
Now, who's responsible for the
Yeah,
stone
the stone-
bridge?
stone
I'd like to
bridge-
see
Stone bridge is
something
town
done with
property.
that bridge in my
Stone Bridge is
lifetime.
town property.
Ah, good.
Stone Bridge.
We do have an
That-
estimate of 3.2 million for that.
Yeah, and that one there
Stone
was-
Bridge area. So that one did make it.
Good.
Okay, well, there's a motion.
Okay, so the motion is to, repeat the motion unless you'd like to.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, the motion then is made and seconded. All in favor? No opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the town administrator / fire chief Lloyd requests acceptance of assistance to the firefighters grant AFG and to authorize work to be completed as set forth in the grant. Mr. Gonzalo?
The fire department has received a grant in the amount of $37,400. And that is for the venting system, the Plimo vent. And this would be for the East Road and Crandall Road fire stations. It's for 2 fire stations. The grant is $37,400. We have to match it with $1,800. Now, there was a company who installed it in the other station on Main Road. The name of the company is Air Cleaning Specialists. And they also quoted us in 2007 for the other 2 stations. They have been contacted, and they are willing to stay with their 2007 quote. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to make this a sole source bid or award so that we can keep it consistent throughout, the same company, the same systems, so it would be easier going forward to maintain the systems, in addition to the fact that this is a 2007 quote that they will honor.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect? To
So
accept
moved.
it? Second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Opposed?
I'm opposed. I just don't like sole source bids, even though this one is more logical than some.
Okay, so it's 5 in favor.
That motion was to
Approve the request. So- There's 5 in favor and 1 against. This next item on the agenda is council announcements, comments, and questions. We have Councilors Roderick and Lambert updating FY 2010 budget.
Okay, this is just an ongoing, again, to ask Mr. Gonzalo, as he continues to review the budget, are there any other areas that you've looked at that you feel that we can make some cost-cutting area?
Well, I'm still looking into it, but I did have a meeting with the police pension actuary, compensation planning this week, and it's a situation where we can lower our contribution, but it just puts the unfunded further in the hole.
Further out into the future.
Right. So there are some issues like that. I haven't been able to contact some of the other areas that I want to talk to people about, but I will by the time we have our workshop.
Okay.
Also, I know a lot of municipalities are in the midst of negotiations on health benefits. And I know we're in a pool. Is that ongoing also in Tiverton?
I'm going to be talking to them. Yes, we are in the pool. We do have a contract going forward. I'd like to talk to them about what can be done. And that's one of the people I will be contacting.
Thanks, Jim.
Government Health Group.
Madam Chair?
Yes?
If I may, under council announcements, last time we talked about budgets, we talked about thinking, or at least I mentioned that we should think outside the box. I read in one of our local newspapers that the state is considering the buyout of Twin River, which is a casino. And my thought when I read this article was that if the state buys Twin Rivers, we got to get to our state representatives, telling them that maybe the state can control one half and the other half ought to be divvied up amongst the town. Maybe we could sell bonds to buy a piece of this casino, which should pay handsomely in the years to come. And I'm not talking about too far out, but in a few years. So something to consider.
Okay.
No?
Thank you, Mr. Costa. That's very commuted. That's good.
That's definitely thinking outside
Yeah,
the box.
that's right.
Thinking outside the slots, you mean?
All right, the next item on the agenda is town solicitor announcements and comments. Memo regarding projected revenue estimate to school committee. Mr. Tykes?
Yes, it's just a memo. Town Council President Bolin had asked a question about what the requirement was to notify the school committee, and this provides the statutory requirement. And it was good of him to ask because the burden falls on the highest elected official of the city or town. So that would be him having this requirement to submit to the school committee the projected revenue estimate for the next fiscal year, which I think has effectively been done with the first round of the budget submittal.
Okay. Any comments or questions for them? Okay. Okay, we gotta go back to town administrator announcements. Sorry.
It's okay. The first announcement I have is that I received a letter today announcing the retirement of Deputy Chief Maltez as of March the 30th. The second announcement is we have a resignation of Derek Wazlowski, who is a firefighter from Woonsocket. He will be accepting a job in Lincoln. He's been with us for 8 months, and his resignation will go into effect February 11th. Sunday, February 1st, Linda Grant from the Tax Assessor's Office will be celebrating 25 years of working for the town of Tiverton. And I'd like to offer our congratulations to her. On February the 4th, AARP will begin offering tax assistance at the Senior Center. The zoning clerk will be on 3 weeks vacation beginning around January 3rd. So the building is...
January 3rd.
I'm sorry, January 31st. She will be on vacation for 3 weeks. The building inspector's office will have limited hours, so I would suggest that anybody needing to conduct any business in the building inspector's office to check the hours. They're listed on the door. Bear with me 1 second here. Local commercial property owners have been sent an income and expense questionnaire to assist in the revaluation process. I would urge all the businesses to file these forms in a timely manner and get them back to the tax assessor's office. If there is any question, they can certainly contact the tax assessor. I attended a meeting last week at the governor's office regarding his proposed legislation, and he urged that we have a meeting with our legislators and certainly give them our concerns with the proposed legislation. So I would urge that we try to get this meeting as quickly as we can. White goods. It is our intention to stop picking up white goods. We will still accept them at the landfill, but the transportation to get them there is going to have to be borne by the people wanting to dispose of them. In an attempt to try to make some of these budget cuts, that's one of the areas that we're looking at. So we will begin, when are we going to stop, Steve? What's the date?
Well, Jim, I'd like to put at least get a notice in the Secana Times and get some advertising out on our website. So that would probably be a couple of weeks from now. So if we could make it a couple of weeks from now, at least we'll get the word out. But it's unfortunate. It's a service that our contractor has been providing, and they get paid like $21.50 for every single white goods they pick up. And it's not going to solve the entire budget problem, but it's a piece of the pie, and I hope all the residents can understand the circumstances. Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Jim, I think there should be an advertisement on the tax assessor survey, did you say? I think that should be in the paper, not just in the list of administrator notes.
Okay. We
You'd
can do
probably
that.
just make it as a press release. So you don't
Yeah,
have
even,
to
exactly,
pay for
a
an
press
ad.
release.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the white goods. I know a lot of cities and towns charge people for that. You know, they've got a set fee. You know, what it costs to pick up a refrigerator or a stove or mattress or, you know, whatever. I mean, have we ever done that in Tiverton?
We will be. That's one of the things we're considering, that you will hear in soon.
Can we charge $25 now for every time they pick up a white?
You know,
No,
we
no,
did have it
there is no charge.
18 months ago, we had it as a fee.
They'd empty my house out
There were some
before we
members of
came
the
to
council who said, no, let's not do it, but this is different times.
Yes, calls for different actions.
Okay, is there anything else? Jim?
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
No, hold on.
Pursuant to.
Pursuant to 4246-5A2.
Is there a second?
Second.
And two remain.
No, take a vote on that.
Take a vote on that. Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous.
And to remain therein in under 4246-5A5.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I think, just been consulting with the town administrator, I don't think we have anything other than the litigation.
Right.
We don't, the other two items are not needed for tonight.
Oh, good.
Okay. So we don't need that.
Don't get your hopes up about the time, though.
So we should call for motion to adjourn?
No.
Executive session,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We're in executive.
I'll take the adjournment.
Adjourn, yeah.
I have an extra copy of this. Did you get that?